Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Stephanie, and this is going to be my booktube glow up. So you're probably sitting there wondering, what do you mean, Stephanie? What is a booktube glow up? So I was inspired by Kayla from Books and Lala. She did a sort of decade video, and I am sort of in that. It's weird because technically the decade doesn't actually end until December of 2020. But the Gregorian calendar says that we've already finished a decade, so it goes from like 2010 until 2019, and that was the decade. And then, you know, now we're starting in the 2020s for the next decade and things like that, and it'll go till 2029. Is that right? Yes, I think that's right. So well, anyways, she was in her video and she was talking about the last 10 years. So I figured I would talk about my last 10 years because why not? It's really interesting here on BookTube because the evolution of BookTube, she does it way better, or she did it way better than I did. And I'm not even going to try and like make it like hers, because why? Why would we do something like that? So I am just going to give you guys chronological like order my life. So in 2010, I was 32 years old, and I lived in Texas. I was a military spouse at the time. I was working for the government, sort of getting my foot in the door with having government employment and working myself through the pay scale and things like that. I was also working on my bachelor's degree in Homeland Security. So I did not do very much reading. For 2010, I only read one book. And that was 276 pages. I actually didn't even look to see what book it was, but I'm pretty sure it was a Nicholas Sparks book. All right, so on to 2011. In 2011, I was still in Fort Bliss, Texas, as a military spouse. I was still working on my bachelor's degree, getting closer and closer to finishing that in Homeland Security. And I read absolutely no books whatsoever. I'm pretty sure that December, that Christmas of 2011 was the year that my husband bought me my Kindle, because now we're going to 2012, and as you will see or hear, yeah, I actually did some reading this year. Now, we are retiring, or he retired from the military, and we moved back to the Northern Virginia area in 2012, and I was still continuing to, you know, work for the government and things like that. I had an unaffiliated government job, and then I started working for FEMA, which is a branch of the Department of Homeland Security. Yay, right? Sorta. So the place that I worked for FEMA was at the headquarters, and I worked in the National Response Coordination Center. So whenever there were any disasters or anything like that, I would help coordinate and bring the people in, set up the stations and everything like that, so that people could come in and help with the disasters here in the United States. Also, there were some disasters that happened abroad that we sort of stood up for, but for the most part, it was for the national emergencies that happened here in the United States. So in 2012, I was still, like I said, was still working and finishing up my bachelor's degree. Actually, I had finished my bachelor's degree in the beginning of 2012, took about a month and a half break, and started my master's degree in security management. So I actually ended up reading 52 books in the year 2012, and that was a total page count for 13,142. I'm still not on Booktube at this point in time. I had no clue what Booktube was, and wasn't even on the internet like that, I guess you could say. I think my big thing about the internet back then was that I was on Facebook. All about Facebook, yay, right? So it was all good. It was all good. And I was introduced to some really amazing indie authors in 2012. My first book, I believe, that I read in 2012 was not 50 Shades of Grey, which some of you are probably saying, that was my first book. That was my gateway back into romance. But I hadn't actually read 50 Shades of Grey first. So the very first book that I read in 2012 was The Help by Catherine Stockett. I do remember reading this and really not connecting with the book, but I then watched the movie and then went back and finished reading the book and felt more of a connection with the story. I don't know that if I was to reread this now, if I would still have the same feelings for it, but yeah. Then I went on to read the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, which, if you have been on my channel for any amount of time, you know that I absolutely love this trilogy. Love this trilogy. I have read this trilogy multiple times. I really enjoyed the complete story arc of Christian and Anna, and I love the movies. When the movies came out, I went and did like premiere parties and all kinds of stuff. So it was recently sort of asked of me, like a friend of mine, a book friend of mine, asked, if I was annoyed by the whole inner goddess conversation that she was having with herself throughout the book. So now if I look back on it, I could probably say I would get annoyed by that, but I've read so many other books now that yeah, I don't know if my feelings would remain the same. I think they would, just because I would be able to place my mind in that sort of time frame and those moments and everything like that. I do remember, like, my third or fourth read, I skipped over the contract part of it in book number 1. That whole section, I didn't even reread it over. I just kind of skipped over it and finished with the story. And yeah, I do know now that I can never listen to it as an audiobook. And this brings me to sort of that question of, did the whole inner goddess thing bother you? I think when I read it, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together with the whole inner goddess repeat of the word or that phrase or anything like that. It didn't bother me at all in the least. Once I tried to listen to it as an audiobook, I about flipped the hell out. It wasn't the phrase inner goddess that bothered me so much. It was the whininess of the narrator that really sort of played up the fact of, how everyone thought, or everyone thinks, the people that don't like the trilogy think that Anna is annoying. So my suggestion with that book specifically, is do not try and listen to it on audiobook. Whoever they got to narrate, I don't even remember the narrator's name, did an absolutely horrible job. I hated that narrator and probably will never listen to anything that narrator reads. So, yeah, there's that. Let's see. 2013. I'm now reading. I work downtown Washington, D.C. Because I live in Northern Virginia, and I have to commute like an hour and a half every single day on the metro. So I had a lot of time to sit and read and really sort of get into all the books that were suggested. When I finished 50 Shades of Grey, they were like, hey, you might like this, or you might like that. In that, I found so many independent authors that it was just mind-blowing. I found Alethea Romig and fell in love with her dark, twisted craziness. She didn't start off writing romance. She started off writing psychological thriller ish book, and I was here for it. I also read a lot of new adult books, things that we would categorize now as new adult books, where back then in 2013, I was just categorizing them as contemporary romance. So in 2014, I read 167 books. That had a total page count of 37,146 pages. Good reading year. I had really pushed myself, and I want to say that was the second year that I did the Goodreads challenge and really tracked, what I was feeling while I was reading a book and writing reviews in the comment section if I wanted to put on there a couple words or whatever. I wasn't very in depth with my reviews, I don't think, back then, but I could be wrong. I haven't looked at those reviews in a while. In 2014, I moved from FEMA to Department of Homeland Security headquarters into a security position that, and that was all because I finished my master's in security management, and it was a promotion. So I was starting to sort of work in a field in which I really enjoyed. At least I thought I did, or thought I would enjoy it. And I was still commuting. So I was still reading loads and loads and loads of books. I also found different ways to commute. Instead of taking the metro, because my kid was now old enough to not fall down and need me immediately. Also, my husband got a job that was closer to our home instead of both of us traveling downtown, which is what we were doing years prior to. One of us was closer, so he was closer, so he could now, if my son needed us, he could run and get him, and things like that. So in 2014, I actually only read 108 books for a page count of 33,644. And I kind of think that is because I was a little bit burnt out by from getting my master's and from getting my bachelor's, and I was trying to sort of manage coming off of the educational side to the just being able to read. But during my commute, I think also my commute started to lull me. So when I would get on the bus, I would fall asleep and then get to my destination and things like that. So, that's how that played out. So with the new job came new coworkers. And with those coworkers, I was now starting to get paired with, or started working with, some younger people than I was used to. And I actually had to work on a team with a millennial who was like, we don't want to hear about you reading books, because I could read CDs while I was at work. That was another thing. I was really introduced to books on CDs or books on tape, things like that, audiobooks, then, but because they were on CDs, I hadn't gotten to the point that I am now with being able to fast forward. That's the story coming up. We'll get there, right? So I'm listening to CDs and during my commute and stuff like that. But they suggested, hey, I don't want to hear about it. So why, there's this thing on YouTube. You could put your videos up on YouTube and start making money there. Maybe you can make some money talking about books over there. I was like, no, yeah, I don't know, you know. So in 2015, in the middle of 2015, I took a chance and started watching YouTube and typing into the search menu books and romance books and things like that. So July rolls around, I decide to start my own channel. I called myself Stephanie Uncensored. That probably was not the best thing to do, because a year later, I think it was a year later, I changed the name of my channel. In 2015, for the channel, I was still working a full-time job, working a government job. I read 165 books, and that came out to 49,152 pages. I didn't know how many subscribers I had, but according to the Glow Up and analytics, I had gained 45 subscribers from when I started my channel in July of 2015 until December 31st of 2015. I had 2,000 or 2.5K thousand views at that point in time, and during that very short period, I released 117 videos. Wow. I think I have locked all of those videos now, all those playlists and things like that. There may be a couple still floating out there. So if you look at the channel hard enough, you might find one or two. But for the most part, they're real cringy. They're super cringy. They're just no fun. Don't try and look for them. I'd appreciate that if you wouldn't. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting my channel. And in 2016, I also figured out that, hey, I like this author, so I'm going to try and go and see and meet these authors, because getting signed books was a big thing back then. So I started going to book events. So in 2016, still working that full-time government job downtown Washington, and I read 165 books again that year. I now have some analytics. Oh, that was 38,343 pages. There we go. So I now started to have some analytics for the page, and the channel was actually geared, or not necessarily geared towards, but was being viewed by the 18 to 24-year-olds. So as I'm doing the research for this Glow Up, I figure out that if I was ranging for the 18 to 24-year-olds, I was not reading what they were reading. You guys asked me, you know, what genre I was reading for the decade and things like that. I've always stuck with the umbrella of romance. I have been from indie romances, and I was really into the indie romances. If it was something that I could get on Amazon for 99 cents or free, or, you know, $3, I had put a cap on myself there for a while, where I wasn't buying books that were over $5.99 if it was an ebook. I didn't read physical books at all. And I still really don't read physical books. But if I couldn't get it on my e-reader, I wasn't reading it. So with the super bubble of pop of indie authors, those are the books that I was reading. So those are the books that I was talking about on Booktube. So people weren't really watching my channel. Once again, back to that age group of subscribers, 18 to 24. So what do 18 and 24-year-olds know about romance? Getting talked to from a 38-year-old. Yeah, I can understand now why I only had an increase of 124 subscribers, and my views went up to 7.7 thousand views. I did put out 114 videos that year, and I went to four book events where I met some amazing, amazing authors and have now really cultivated those relationships with those authors and just really enjoy their work. I follow quite a few of them still. Actually, yeah, quite a few of them I still follow and read a lot of their books. Some of them have not put any books out lately, and I haven't read them, but some of them have really blown up and love them even more, stay in contact with them, are in their reader groups, and everything like that. So, now this brings us to 2017. 2017, still working that full-time government job down in DC, and taking the bus, commuting, so I'm still getting a lot of reading done. I actually only read 140 books in 2017. I think it was because I just wasn't having a good time at work, so there was drama there, lots of drama at work. So I took, some time away from reading books, which was fine. It's always fine if you want to, not read, take a break. I was going through sort of a slumpy time and, just needed to take a break on it. But I did those 140 books, so that managed out to 34,758 pages. And I now moved demographics to the 25 to 34-year-olds. And I kind of attribute that to going to book signings. Those 4 book signings that I went to in 2016 allowed me to, sort of put myself out there and say, hey, I have a Booktube channel. I'm on the internet talking about your books. So can you let your other readers know to come and sort of, watch my channel, hear me talk about your books. At that time, I know for a fact that I was doing individual video reviews for every single book that I read, whether it be good, whether it be bad, whether it be 2 minutes, whether it be, 10 minutes. Most of the time in 2017, I was doing the research and really into wanting to make my Booktube channel really work. And I was researching how to, increase my views and what do I need to do to get the subscriber count up, and changing my thumbnails and really digging deep into that. So I was taking all that advice, and it did wear on me, obviously, because I only read 140 books, right? 2017 was also the year that I started applying for jobs outside of the one that I had, and ended up getting a new job in 2018 where I still had to commute, but I didn't have to commute as far. And that job ended up being crap as well, so I ended up moving to another agency where I started to commute in 2018. And I started to drive myself. So I had a 30-minute drive after I dropped off my kid at school. And in 2018, I managed to read 366 books. Audiobooks, ebooks. I was attending author events. I didn't say, but for 2017, I attended 5 events. And I had a increase of views I was up to 20,000 or 20.7 thousand views at this point in time. I released 154 videos, and I had an increase of 472 new subscribers to the channel. So I think by that move to the new demographic in 2017 really, really helped out my glow up. I mean, like, seriously. So back to 2018, right? So I've changed jobs. I'm now 40 years old. I know I did a video when I turned 40 about, hey, I'm 40, yay! But, I think that kind of moved my demographic once again. My largest demographic then was the 25 to 34-year-olds, and then the 35 to 44-year-olds. So now I'm in my sweet spot, right? I'm in that place where I'm talking to men and women that are of my age and around my age that have sort of the same experiences that I may have had, can really talk about living in the 1990s or living in the 1980s, being out of high school in the 2000s, and being actual adults in the 2000s. In the 1990s. I mean, I was an adult at the end of the 1990s. And doing things, that adults did. Buying houses, going into the military, paying bills, taking care of yourself. Not living at home, and not still in high school. So I'm still talking about romance on my channel. I now, in 2018, have had a major glow up. I think I did a controversial video or two, and that really helped my increase of 1.1 thousand subscribers. I mean, what? What is going on? So excited about those new subscribers. I was like, yes. But what happens, Booktube and YouTube as a whole starts putting down new rules about, how they're going to do their analytics and how they're going to promote videos and things like that. So I kind of got down. I know in 2018 I was a little down about my channel. Also, with the new job that I had, I actually had to be cleared to run my channel because they considered it a second job, what have you. All the time, though, I'm still reading because in 2018 I read 366 books. Mind you, it was really the end of 2018 that bumped me over, because in the month of December for 2018 I read 46 books, and I think that was my highest month ever to read books until we get to 2019. So I attended 5 different book signings in 2018. I had an increase of 39.2 thousand views on the channel, and like I said, I had an increase of 1.1 thousand viewers or subscribers, and I released 155 videos in 2018. So I'm still on par for what I had been doing. I don't think that I was completely consistent as I have been in 2018, but I think in 2018 is where I really started to be consistent with putting out the videos out, making sure they're on the right days, and everything like that. So that brings us to last year, 2019. Crazy, crazy year. I thought I was pretty comfortable because now I have almost 20 years in the federal government, working federal government positions and everything like that. I was feeling pretty comfortable. And then I end up getting canned. That was a blow that I did not see coming at all whatsoever. That happened in April. Still sort of recovering from that, not even remotely ready to sort of dive into my feelings about it. I went through all of the stages: grief, anger, so mad for quite some time. I would probably say I was a little depressed at some points. But the one thing that it didn't take me from losing my job was my reading. It allowed me to read so much more. It gave me 8 to 10 hours where I was at home and I could read. Now, there were quite a few weeks there that I didn't read as much as it appeared. It may not sound like it, when especially for the fact that in 2019 I read 432 books for 106,000 pages. Yeah. So it may seem like I was still reading a whole bunch, which I was, but there were weekends where I would stay in bed and read 6 or 7 books over the weekend. Over 2 days, I could read 6 or 7 books. I would listen to crazy amounts of audiobooks. I did so many Netflix binges. Wow. I actually ran out of shows there for a little while to watch, but it's cool. I was still reading. I was watching TV. I was reading. I applied for jobs at some points. But the way that they fired me really kind of screwed me over. And still coming to grips with that. So I'm still in the right demographic. Obviously, name changing the channel a couple times because the evolution of the name change of the channel, or name of the channel's name, was Stephanie Uncensored to Steph's Rom Book Talk to what it is now, Steph's Romance Book Talk, because you can only have so many characters, and since Stephanie is so long, I've come to terms with nicknames and being called Steph. So Steph's Romance Book Talk. You guys know that I talk about romance here. It is very clear. And the range of romance is so wide. It's still very independent driven. But at the same time, I've read so many outside genre books because of readathons and because of challenges, because pretty much those two things. Those two things are the things that really branched me out. And I should have probably counted how many readathons and things like that I participated in, but I didn't. Last year in 2019, I tried to do my own readathon of reading certain subgenres every single month, and I think I did a really amazing job with that. I had another glow up of 1.3 thousand subscribers, and you guys pushed me to that 3,000 subscriber mark for 2019 before the end of the year, and I don't ever really think that I realized until probably this moment that 300 people want to watch what I say about romance books. Now, you guys are like, wait, but you have 3,000 subscribers. Yes, but according to the YouTube algorithm, actually, I think it's probably more than that. I think it's more like 1,000 people, because my impression percentage is, I want to say it's at like 3% now. So yeah, it's probably like 1,000 people that actually watch my videos. You guys comment on them, and you guys conversate with me over on Twitter and on Instagram. I've started like putting so much work into all those type of things. The demographics are really evening out at this point. I'm still with that 25 to 44-year-old demographic, which are the people that I want to be talking to, are the people that I should be connecting with. Like I said before, these are the people that have the same experiences that I do. So yeah, you guys glowed me up to having 66.5 thousand views now for the year of 2019, and I put out 203 videos last year. I did attend 4 different book events. Actually, that is incorrect. I attended quite a few other ones because I've started doing vlogs, and you guys are appreciating those vlogs and enjoying the vlogs. You guys are vicariously going to book events with me. So yeah, I don't know what the point to this video was, but to show you guys that, you know, even if you're not glowing up the way that you think you should be glowing up. We all have our ups and downs, and we all have our moments where we're like, I'm not hitting those numbers, because I have those moments all the time. There are booktubers that sort of run in the same circle as I do, that have triple to quadruple the numbers that I have, and they just started a year ago. So, you know, or that started 2 years ago and they're in their double digits for subscribers. So I don't think it really matters how many subscribers you have. It's about that small community that you sort of deal with on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. Those subscribers and viewers that reach out to you and say, you suggested this book and I absolutely loved it. Those are the comments that I absolutely love. I adore those comments. You guys are amazing. You touch my heart when you reach out to me and say, hey, I read this book because you suggested it and I really enjoyed it as well. So, you know, yeah. I guess that's all I'm going to say in this video. Yeah, don't worry about your glow up. I mean, it was a good decade. It was a good decade. I found a home here on YouTube. It's called Booktube, and I have romance community friends that I love oh so much, and you guys are really special to me. And I love talking about books. I love talking about independent books and authors that don't get so much hype here on Booktube. I mean, it does get kind of annoying when we're all talking about the same thing, or you know, you see 5 videos about the same book and there's nothing really being said about it, which is why I like being the way that I am, where I talk about the book and how it made me feel and all that good stuff. So I guess that's it. So thank you for watching. Let me know down in the comment section if you like this video, what your thoughts are. If you're trying to start a Booktube video or a Booktube channel, the best idea that I can say is to just do it. Don't take the tips that are out there about YouTube and how to get monetized and how to make yourself grow and everything like that. Don't take those tips to heart if you're just trying to talk about books. A lot of those videos are for the more popular niches on YouTube. And Booktube is not even making probably the top 20 of top niches on Booktube. There are so many other niches that Booktube is really a small community. It really is. So go find your crew, go find your group, go find your people, and just enjoy the ride. Enjoy talking about books that you love and finding new books that you could love with people from all around the world. So thank you for watching. All my socials are down in the description box, so you guys can take a look at that as well. Let's connect over on all the other platforms that I'm on. I have a feedback form down in the description box as well. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Pass this video along. Share it. Subscribe. All that good stuff. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.